This lesson is for the Dalton Police Department's All Hazards Plan. As law enforcement officers, you come into contact with many things that are considered hazards on a daily basis. The purpose of the Dalton Police Department's All Hazards policy is to examine many different types of hazards and give instructions on how to handle them. Whether the hazard is caused by a natural disaster or is man-made, this policy will give you guidance on how to handle it properly. The terminal performance objective for this lesson is given a disaster, properly respond and expedite the mobilization of department personnel in an effective and efficient manner in accordance with the Dalton Police Department All Hazards Plan. Our enabling objectives are to define and identify disasters and critical incidents, demonstrate an understanding of the all hazard procedures outlined in the Dalton Police Department's All Hazards Plan, demonstrate an understanding of the incident command system, identify proper techniques to be used during and following a disaster or critical incident. So to start the lesson, let's look at a disaster in general. FEMA defines a disaster as a non-routine event that exceeds the capacity of the affected area to respond to it in such a way as to save lives, to preserve property, and to maintain the social, ecological, economic, and political stability of the affected region. Once again, this is FEMA's definition, and there's different types of disasters and critical incidents. If we look at different types of disasters, the first one we'll talk about is natural disasters. This could be an earthquake, flooding, severe weather, large-scale fires. Man-made disasters are anything like mass transportation accidents, hazardous material accident, explosions, terrorism, weapons of mass destruction incidents, violence at an educational facility, bomb threats, civil disturbances, hostage situation, barricaded persons, and any type of other unusual incident. The last type of critical incident or disaster we'll talk about will be pandemics. A pandemic is an epidemic of infectious disease that is spreading through human populations across a large region. The Dalton Police Department has an all-hazard procedure for handling most large-scale type incidents. A lot of incidents are going to be handled in the same manner, and so it's important for us to understand how to properly manage these situations. First of all, the first responding officer must establish immediate control over all public safety responders, who in turn will assist in gaining control over the general public. We're going to have to assess the situation, notify dispatch of the incident, request any necessary assistance from other resources or agencies, establish a command post and staging area if necessary, and then initiate the NIMS or ICS system. And lastly, you will have to assume the role of the incident commander until relieved by a supervisor. If we look at the first responding officer as being the incident commander on all major incidents, it's very easy for everyone to kind of get into the same understanding of how ICS works. The incident command system has several principles. First of all, it's protecting life and providing for the safety of emergency responders and the public, stabilizing the incident by developing a strategy that will minimize the effect it has on the surrounding area, and also conservation of property by minimizing the effect or the effects on the environment while accomplishing the action plan developed to bring closure to the incident. The ICS system, if you'll remember, was actually created by the fire service and developed by the fire service for large scale forest fires. It's very difficult when you have many different agencies from across the country coming into one area to assist with a large scale incident. And in the fire service and the forest service, they determined that the only way they could do that was to come up with some type of system that would structure everything accordingly, and that's what they did. And it's carried over into law enforcement. The fire service still uses this on a regular basis and routine basis. And so if we can kind of maintain control of a scene by maintaining control of all the resources and personnel, then it's going to make things flow a lot better. The thing to remember about incident command is you have to begin with the end in mind. If you begin a situation with how you want the outcome to be, it's a lot easier to manage that situation. Some of the advantages of the incident command system, it allows for the transfer of command to a more senior officer when a senior officer deems it necessary. It allows for the expansion of the system in order to deal with developing situations, and also it's extremely flexible and has the ability to expand or contract to meet the demands of the incident that you're dealing with. There's several different functional areas: the incident commander command, operations, planning, logistics, and finance and administration. During a smaller scale incident, you may not use only one or two of these functional areas. You have the incident commander and maybe someone in operations or planning, something like that. So just because it's one of the functional areas doesn't necessarily mean we're always going to use it. The incident commander has a lot of responsibility when being in charge of an incident. Their responsibility is ensuring the incident safety, establishing an incident command post, obtaining a briefing from the prior incident commander and or assessing the situation, establishing immediate priorities and directing them initially after arriving resources, determining incident objectives and strategies to be followed, and then establishing a staging area when necessary, and then maintain accountability for the safety of all personnel and the public and for task accomplishment. You have to think about when activating the NIM system, establishing the level of organization needed and continuously monitoring the operation and effectiveness of that organization. The good thing about the ICS system is that it can be contracted, it can be expanded depending on the scenario itself. When activating it, maintaining an effective span of control, not having too many people under one individual commander, managing planning meetings as required, approving and implementing the incident action plan, coordinating the activities of the NIMS, ICS command, and general staff, and then approving requests for additional resources or for the release of resources, and then also establishing a necessary liaison with other agencies. So if we look at, again, the incident commander and activating the NIM system, directing the expansion or contraction of the NIM system based on three priorities of life safety, incident stability, and property conservation, and activating other sections as needed, whether it be operations, planning, logistics, or finance. Also identifying contingencies which may affect ongoing operations and plan accordingly, making necessary notifications and requesting resources that could reasonably be expected to offset contingent actions. If you look on the screen here, you also see some additional responsibilities: ordering demobilization of the incident when appropriate, ensuring incident after action reports are completed, and in these after action reports, any kind of recommendations for resources needed in the future would be a good time to bring that up in that after action report. And transferring the command in an orderly manner and briefing the incoming commander on the incident status. In the transfer of command, the incoming incident commander should personally perform an assessment of the incident situation, be adequately briefed by the current incident commander, and then determine approximate time for transfer of command, notifying all parties involved in the incident that there's been a change in that command. After the incident is over, the post-occurrence duties, all equipment and resources will be inspected for maintenance and any type of maintenance needs. All incidents documented, collected, and bound, and then personnel shall be debriefed. After action reports again will be completed. Command staff will review the guidelines for after action reports for possible revisions of policies or any other type of items that they see necessary to implement for the future. The next topic we'll talk about is unusual occurrences and how we're going to handle an unusual occurrence. Personnel notification will be made. This could be in the form of just notifying the command staff, could be in notifying all off-duty personnel to come in to assess a situation or to help handle a situation. Specific equipment may be required, whether it be a gas mask, whether it be any other type of item that you may need. Dispatch will be handled through the 911 center, and an incident command post will be established. A representative from Dalton PD will staff the Emergency Operations Center if it's activated, located on Professional Boulevard at the 911 center. The incident commander will follow the activation process for the incident command system, and then additional resources will be requested on an as-needed basis. Depending on the situation we're dealing with, may depend on if all or just some of these are implemented. It could be anything from perimeter traffic control. Liaison will be established by the Chief of Police. Security will be provided for public facilities as directed by the Chief of Police, and then additional support will be requested as needed. Our de-escalation procedures: we're going to seal the affected area except for an escape route, notify an area riot squad if that's needed, coordinate activities of all agencies involved, control crowds, disperse assembly, arrest persons if necessary, and then establish security patrols in that affected area. We'll assist in evacuation if necessary, and then continuance of security detail and maintenance of traffic checkpoints may be necessary after the unusual occurrence is over. If we have an issue that requires mass arrests, make sure that mass arrestees are searched and positively ID'd. Is going to be made prior to the transport if possible. Contraband, illegal weapons, concealed firearms will be tagged and identified for additional charges, and transportation will be made to Whitfield County Sheriff's Department. Persons arrested will be removed from the scene as soon as possible and moved to a nearby holding area for initial processing and also to await transport. In some circumstances, the governor may enact curfews, restrict sales of alcohol, gasoline, weapons, and/or ammunition, and restrict access to the affected area. After action reports once again will be completed, and then command staff will review these guidelines as well. The next topic is bomb threats under the All Hazards Plan. When dealing with a bomb threat, it's important to obtain from the caller and/or dispatch the location, type of bomb, time of detonation, the caller's sex, age, and race, mood, voice characteristics, rate of speech, and their exact language used. Any type of background noises that may have been heard, the origin of the call, whether it was local, long distance, and then the caller's motive. Some of the responsibilities: threats will be assigned to the nearest patrol or investigative unit. Patrol is going to most of the time get this call first, and then the unit assigned and a superior officer will proceed directly to the scene, and a command post will be set up. The incident commander on a bomb threat is going to initiate a planned response to bomb threats, notify and coordinate all the other personnel involved, release info to the news media as needed, evaluate factors for evacuation, search, and continuation of business. And the thing we have to remember there is if it's a bomb threat at a private business, such as Walmart, Kroger, something like that, the business is going to have to make that determination of whether they're going to be able to continue business or not. If a device is located, we'll talk about that here in just a minute, but if it's just a bomb threat, then the business is going to have to make the decision on whether they want to continue serving customers or not. Access vulnerability and accessibility of targeted area, and then evaluate probable risk involved. Determine courses of action regarding evacuation, oversee searches to be implemented, and also work with facility management to determine the possible need for evacuation and assist in a search plan, designate personnel to conduct a search of accessible areas, and develop that search plan as the situation is ongoing. If a bomb is located, immediately evacuate the location. Contact the GBI and request the bomb disposal unit. Remember that unqualified officers should never move or render safe any type of suspected explosive device. When searching anything any building where a bomb threat has been called in, establish a search perimeter. The search should begin on an outside perimeter and then work its way toward the inside, and then begin at the lowest floor and work your way up. Make sure you examine closely any type of utility and service areas, reception rooms, lobbies, restrooms, anywhere where the general public has access or something could be hid easily. Mark areas after they have been searched, so that way you're not searching the same area over and over again. and then run elevators through at least one cycle before getting on the elevator or anything like that. Searchers shall be paired into teams, and this makes it safer and makes it easier for everyone involved. Search procedures should be discontinued 30 minutes prior to the reported time of detonation and not resumed until 1 hour thereafter. If no suspected items are found, the facility management will be responsible for returning persons back to that immediate area to work, and then evacuate the area within 500 yards of any type of suspected device. The incident commander will make adjustments to personnel after conferring with the bomb disposal unit if necessary. If any type of explosion occurs, the incident commander shall ensure additional resources are requested as needed, and then only personnel necessary to care for the injured will be allowed inside the perimeter following any type of explosion. The next one we'll talk about is a hostage or barricaded person incident. The thing that we need to make sure that we remember, and the most important thing when it's dealing with a hostage or barricaded person, is the ultimate goal in a hostage situation is to trade the safe release of hostages in return for the safe surrender of the hostage taker. In a barricaded person incident, it is the safe capture or surrender of the barricaded person. The general guidelines for dealing with a hostage or barricaded person: all officers need to have a basic knowledge of these types of incidents and also negotiation techniques. Your crisis intervention training, you're dealing with hostile individuals, good communication, trying to keep calm, keep the situation calm is very important. The senior officer at the scene will initially assume command, and then no offensive action shall commence unless directed to do so by the commander on scene, or there are clear and articulable circumstances that allow you to do so. Containment in these types of situations is the primary initial objective. The incident commander is going to try to create an open line of communication between any tactical units, hostage negotiation personnel, and the command post. The incident commander retains the authority to determine when to commence offensive action, and the hostage negotiator should be specially trained to negotiate with the suspect. Patrol is going to be the first response to a hostage or barricaded person in most cases. Their initial response is to contain the scene, try to establish communication with the hostage taker, obtain as much information as possible, and then set the stage for further negotiations. Try to consume as much time as possible and try to delay the situation as much as you can to slow things down. Advise 911 to dispatch fire and ambulance units at a safe distance to stand by in case they are needed as well. Direct and immediate intervention will only be made first when the suspect does not physically control the scene and the victims, and hostages have already been killed and other lives are in imminent danger. Also, there is a clear opportunity, minimal risk, and high probability of success in resolving the incident. The first responding officer should notify dispatch of the incident, request backup and supervisors and advise of unsafe approaches, implement incident command system, contain the scene, assist any injured and evacuate, and then evacuate bystanders and try to detain witnesses. Take up a good cover position and wait for backup. Don't forget your tactics in a situation like this and put yourself in a disadvantage or in a tactical disadvantage. Try to keep a situation from escalating or going mobile if possible as well. The first responding supervisor, if it's not already been implemented, is going to implement incident command and then assess the situation. Contain the scene if not already accomplished, and determine manpower requirements and request more personnel if that's needed. They will establish and maintain inner and outer perimeters, establish a field command post, evacuate the area if not already accomplished, and then request a hostage negotiator. They'll also have the patrol division commander notified and advise dispatch of any type of decisions or actions that are being taken. Going to try to attempt to establish communication with the hostage taker if it's not already been done, and then provide briefing to the command staff on an as-needed basis as well. public relations specialist will be notified to handle media inquiries. The hostage negotiator is going to be responsible for being, or they need to be briefed by the first officer that made any type of verbal contact with the suspect. Attempt to establish a line of communication with the suspect, and then coordinate all communications between the suspect and law enforcement personnel. The Criminal Investigation Division responsibilities is going to be intelligence gathering and analysis of the setting, location, hostages and hostage takers or the barricaded persons, interviewing witnesses, hostages, suspects, and also officers that are involved, and then conducting the follow-up investigation. Any type of outside agency assistance that is needed, outside tactical units are going to be responsible for open communication with the incident commander. Tactical units are going to be responsible for creating any tactical plans and implement them only after obtaining approval from the incident commander. The incident commander is authorized to request assistance from any outside agencies or needed persons at the time of the incident. And then once again, all dispatch communications will be handled through Whitfield County 911. There may come a situation, such as a bank robbery, to where the FBI may request some type of jurisdiction, asking for jurisdiction during certain circumstances. If it's at a federal building located here inside the city, operational command is retained by Dalton PD until the FBI clearly indicates a wish to assume that command. If the FBI does assume command, we will shift to an as-needed basis and just an assist mode. If the FBI desires concurrent jurisdiction, that means we're working together in a situation and making joint decisions, and that'll be undertaken by both agencies. If the incident goes mobile, the incident commander will notify dispatch of any movement of the suspect, hostages, hostage taker, and the proposed route and destination if that's known. Other officers shall not intervene with the progress of the convoy, and then dispatch will also notify other agencies if needed. The next topic we'll briefly talk about is pandemics and what the difference is in the different types and phases of pandemics. There's 6 phases of pandemics, ranging from phase 1 to phase 6. Phase 1 is low risk of human cases. Phase 2 is higher risk of human cases. 3 is no or very limited human-to-human transmission of virus. Phase 4 is evidence of increased human-to-human transmission. And then 5 is evidence of significant transmission. Phase 6 is efficient and sustained human-to-human transmission. The protective measures, the officers at the Dalton Police Department will be educated about transmission, vaccinations, and any type of treatment that's available. Personal protective equipment, the N95 mask, gloves, eye protection, sanitary wipes are all going to be provided. Policy adjustments addressing ill employees may need to be modified, may need to be made during that time as far as how we're going to handle employees that are contaminated or ill. Prioritization of calls for service may be made. Planning for reductions in staff. Prioritization of job importance. Consolidation of units, and then also cross-training of job functions depending on how severe the pandemic is. Our protective measures, there may be some stockpiling that's required, purchase agreements made, redeployment of personnel is necessary, and any type of alternate response methods, complaint taking methods may need to be made during that time. Quarantines, mass vaccination orders are all things that are potential during a pandemic. During a hazardous materials incident, the procedures are going to be based on first on the size of the spill. The size can be determined by the carrier and container of the substance in a lot of cases. A small spill is classified as anything that's 1 to 20 gallons of a known product, and large spills are greater than 20 gallons or any type of vapor release from a vehicle or commercial establishment of known or unknown products. In a small spill, we're going to try to determine the product identification. You can use this. You can use your emergency response guide, the yellow book that you carry in your patrol vehicle, to try to determine that by looking at the placard number. The 911 Center also has a lot of good information that they can access. If you know the placard number or the chemical name that you can give them, they can pull a lot of information. And also there's information that can be obtained from GCIC as well. If it's non-volatile, secure the area with a vehicle and call for traffic control if needed, and then call the Department of Public Works for assistance. If it's after hours, Dalton Fire Department can also assist you with this if it's something that is non-volatile. If it's something that is volatile, secure the area with a vehicle in a manner that will not cause ignition of the product, and then determine if there is a traffic hazard. If there is a traffic hazard, call for Public Works to secure and assist you with that, and then Dalton Fire Department can assist you after hours as well. If there is no traffic hazard, the officer can go in service when the area is deemed to be safe. If it's a large spill, remember to approach any hazardous material incident upwind and upgrade at a safe distance. Report incident as soon as possible as a hazardous material accident, and then the supervisor on duty and Dalton Fire Department should be notified. Remember to stay upwind and upgrade, and then evacuate the immediate area of non-essential personnel. Avoid contact with any type of liquid or fumes, and then eliminate any type of ignition sources. And then try to rescue the injured only if it's prudent and safe to do so. Once again, don't put yourself in an unsafe environment to try to rescue someone if it's not feasible to do so. Again, on a large spill, notify dispatch of the situation description, any identification placards or signs that you see on the truck or the item that you're dealing with, any known victims, other safety hazards, considerations, and then location of command post and the approach route. Try to establish command post upwind and uphill to safe distance, and initiate evacuation after consulting with fire department personnel. The Dalton Fire Department, once they get on scene, the supervisor will respond to the command post and stage other units in a safe area. The incident commander will be the ranking fire department official at the command post, and will be in an on as needed basis and an assist level. The ranking police officer at the command post shall take direction from the incident commander regarding police responsibilities such as perimeter traffic control, evacuation. When dealing with perimeter control, the first officer on scene shall determine the outer perimeter, and the first supervisor on scene should report to the command post, assign personnel to secure the outer perimeter, assign an officer to the Dalton Fire Department staging sector, and then all entry or access to the scene shall be denied except for public safety personnel essential to the operation. Authorized personnel not easily identified by uniform may also be given a piece of crime tape to be fixed to the personnel's belt for identification, if necessary. All personnel must access an incident of a hazardous material incident through the staging sector. Route for easy entry and exit of emergency vehicles shall be maintained, and then citizens should be denied access to the outer perimeter area and advised to move upwind and upgrade when leaving the area. The outer perimeter is subject to be moved further away from the incident at the discretion of the incident commander. If evacuation is necessary, Dalton Fire Department will call for the evacuation and will determine the exact area to be evacuated. 911, EMA, American Red Cross, Salvation Army may also be contacted as needed. Dalton Police Department will assist establish evacuation mass transit locations, and the American Red Cross and Public School System has been contracted to provide buses. Off-duty personnel and other law enforcement agencies may be contacted to assist, and then local media and the reverse 911 system will be utilized to broadcast evacuation notices, mass transit locations, and evacuation shelter sites. Any type of protective equipment is going to be assigned to law enforcement personnel that may enter areas of exposure to hazardous materials. Areas to be evacuated will be divided into evacuation sectors, with the sectors with the greatest potential of danger to be evacuated first. As sectors are cleared, the officers will notify the command post, and then the evacuated areas will be patrolled to prevent looting or any type of unauthorized entry. Some of the additional guidelines in the All Hazards Plan: The Patrol Operations Supervisor will serve as a liaison with the Georgia Information Sharing and Analysis Center, which we've covered in a separate lesson. The Patrol Operations Supervisor will email alerts and information received from the GSAC to agency personnel as needed. Training is required and to be documented on an annual basis on critical incidents, the all hazards plan for any type of affected agency personnel. The enabling objectives for this lesson were to define and identify disasters and critical incidents, demonstrate an understanding of the all hazards procedures outlined in the Dalton Police Department's all hazards plan, demonstrate an understanding of the incident command system, and to identify proper techniques to be used during and following a disaster or critical incident. If you have any questions about the Dalton Police Department's all hazards plan, please refer to your policy and procedure manual inside the Power DMS system, or also contact myself or your immediate supervisor.